distinguished chairman is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the distinguished chair, Mr. Ackerman, for the time, and compliment my colleague. Hvala lepo, gospodin Miche. Yes, I'm Slovenc. Vi ste Slovac. And we're all together. What I said simply was thank you. I'm Slovene, you're Slovak, and we're all together in the spirit of the Slavic peoples yearning for freedom after conquest by foreign powers, domination by other governments, subjection to cultures and language of other peoples. I recall my grandmother who emigrated from Sodražica in Slovenia telling me that in her youth they were required in the morning to study in German because it was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and only in the afternoon could they speak their native language, Slovene. This sense of Congress on the occasion of the 20th anniversary, particularly of the Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia, is one that we must pay attention to, that we must address. We must constantly, as the distinguished gentleman from Florida so warmly, thoughtfully, deep spirit, deep personal sense of understanding, so well expressed, the freedom that the peoples of formerly Eastern Europe felt in their heart, the courage they took, the courage it took for them to stand up against oppression. It's not just the Velvet Revolution, though. 161 years ago was the Great Prague Revolution, the Prague Spring of 1848, when the people of this great historic cultural center, Prague, marched in the streets, led by the students, to proclaim a time of freedom and democracy and liberty and opening, and were suppressed. In 1939, the Nazis closed the Czech institutions of higher learning and those of the Slovak people as well. Many were sent off to concentration camps. Student leaders were executed. And 50 years later, students again led the way. On November 17, took to the streets to mark the anniversary of the execution of Czech student leaders and the closure of universities by the Nazis. The government used violence once again to move in, break up this peaceful gathering of students. So we have was the Prague Spring, the 1939 suppression, the Velvet Revolution, suppression once again. Those 42 days of the Prague Velvet Revolution were momentous. Popular demonstrations, public outpouring, people taking to the streets. But by December 10, the Czechoslovak President Gustav Hušák appointed the first largely non-communist government since 1948. And in 1990, Czechoslovakia held its first democratic elections and then split into both the Czech Republic and the Slovak Republic. It has very special meaning for me, both that the Prague Spring, the 39 events, closing of the universities, and the Prague Student Velvet Revolution. In 1956, I was a student at the College of Europe in Bruges, Belgium. Does the gentleman have another?
Time has expired.
Gentleman have another minute?
Be happy to yield another minute to the gentleman.
The gentleman's recognized for 1 more minute.
I was a student at the College of Europe in Bruges, Belgium, when Hungarian students took to the streets to rise up against the Soviet occupation and oppression of their homeland. And they too were suppressed brutally as tanks rolled down the street and machine gunned the students. We were only 600 miles away from those momentous events in Bruges, Belgium. And the students of the College of Europe organized a Grand Bal des étudiants du Collège d'Europe to raise a scholarship to bring a Hungarian student to the College of Europe and study with us. And when he arrived, we asked him, what was your first reaction on coming into the West? And his comment was the ability to go walk up to a policeman on a street corner and ask direction without fear of being put in prison. That's what freedom means. So simple. That's what the gentleman from Florida was talking about. That's what this resolution recognizes. Revolution is not simply a continuous movement in one direction to come back where you started, but an opportunity to change direction and move the human spirit ahead. And that is what we recognize in this 20th anniversary recognition of the Velvet Revolution.
Gentleman's time has expired.